Welcome everyone to the Historic Society's. See, there are dots on the floor where we're supposed to stand. Welcome everyone to the Historic Society talk tonight by Angie Morthland on the history of the handy meal, the pasty. For those of you who are on Zoom, it's too bad because she made pasties and it smells really good in here. Yeah, nothing like the real experience. A couple of announcements before Angie begins. One, I wanted to remind everyone that Giving Tuesday is coming up November 28th, and the Historic Society has a challenge grant of $1,000. If we can raise $1,000 on Tuesday, we get another $1,000 from a donor. So that's November 28th if you feel like you would like to donate to us. And the other thing I wanted to bring up and remind everyone is we have Christmas in the village out at Heritage Village on December 2nd. 2 to 3 o'clock is an open house and the service will be at 2:30. So come on out for that, bring your coat.
Yes, and a blanket.
Yeah, there's no heat in our buildings, we're very authentic, so yeah.
Really cool.
Yes, it's really cool.
No,
Yeah, it is, yes.
No, I mean,
Oh, yeah.
yeah,
It
I'm
is
telling
really
my age. Say it's really cool.
Yes, yes. All right, so, and barring all that, we'll let Angie start here. She's cooked today, all day, and she's made the room smell great, and she's gonna give us the story now. Thank you.
Well, first of all, most of you know me, and anybody on Zoom, hi, nice to meet you. I am just Angie Morthland. I am not a chef. So I'm gonna do this like I did before, Marianne, since, you know, I'm not a chef, I'm just a home ec teacher. So this really is not authentic at all. So we're not using this because anybody can make a pasty, even you. Not a chef, not gonna wear this at all either. So today, it's just me as a Cornish wife of a miner to tell you a little bit about that, right? Are we all good?
Does Dave know that?
Dave does. He mines limestone, remember? So let's get started, and I have a few experts in the audience, so I'll be able to work with them. So first of all, which do you know it by? With the Y or the IE?
IE.
Why is it IE? It's because it's on her sign. It's interchangeable, right? It's interchangeable. So make sure if you see it in a recipe, you're like, am I doing the right thing? So make sure you know the difference, that you can say it, but it's always pronounced what, Bill?
Pasty.
Thank you. Okay, so the origin of it, obviously, is way back in the 1300s. Way back in the 1300s, King Henry was obviously getting mad at people for selling a small sandwich, which would have been the pasty, for a penny, and 3-day-old too. So the things I made today are not old. We're all good. So think about that. This has been around for a while, not just from the UP. So we're talking about 13th century. They also had trouble with what was going inside of the pasties. So someone got in trouble for putting rabbit meat inside of their pasty, of course, and it was banned because it was, again, more than a penny, and they were using rabbit that they would have just caught out there. I'm sure there was probably other animals inside of it as well. Anybody know the place, Sweeney Todd? Okay. So just think about that back in that time. So let's bring it up to what we know it as. Meat can be wrapped to be eaten later. We know that. So the Cornish miners, okay, 19th century Cornish miners, were the ones that we base our pasty on, right? Cornish miners, they had something that was recognizable to us. Now, I talk about this for just a second because I look at all these pictures when I do the research and I find out what's going on with these unusual ways that they got the pasties. So, looking at the picture right there, this is my fictitious, can you still see it? Do I have to move it? Okay. This is actually the same type of bin that's in that picture, right? You're with me, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so how they would have done this is they would heat rocks and put them in their metal containers so that the pasties would stay warm. So one person would take 3 or 4. So if I'm doing this one, all my famous rocks, and a helmet went down too, so we're good with that. So they're shaped, thank you, they're shaped so they could slide in and be a part of that. So they would come out in newspaper or paper. So that was one of the unique things that I found out. makes sense, the first thermoses and coolers and heaters, so they would have done rocks. Okay. So now, the mixture they place in the middle of the pasty would be very nutritious. We all love the things inside of our pasties, right? So we'll talk a little bit about what's traditional and what you guys put in your pasties as well. So miners, of course, can you imagine having this for lunch? Does it remind you of like Subway or something like that? So they would be eating this and they would wrap it up if they didn't eat it all and put it back. So we have that. Fairly easy. We just don't know what's inside that package right now. So the thick crust made it easy to hold, but initials could be carved in them too. So my initial's an A. So if I made this one up and it was mine, it better have the A on it to make sure it was mine, or those would be fighting words. And the thick crust in itself, I should be able to hold this and it shouldn't fall apart. So I should be able to move around, and I'm talking all the time with it as well. So the miners did the same thing. They had a cup of coffee over here, they're talking, they're doing all this stuff, throwing it around. But I was told, as my research goes, the D shape and the arsenic connection. So if I know, kind of funny, if I'm in the mines and I am using TNT, I am using different types of machinery, there's arsenic residue, and it's going to be on my hands if I'm a miner. So if I'm going to eat this and the paper goes through and I'm all the way down to the end, I'm not going to eat the crust. I'm going to take the crust and I'm going to throw it into the mine. Folklore says it's for the little gnomes, that allow them to keep finding new riches, or I don't know, the rats that might be in there too. So always leave the part, because arsenic, and how many of you guys have really clean hands after working in the mine?
Oh,
You know,
never.
always. So definitely made for that particular part. Okay. So rise in popular pasties. So I'm going to have you guys practice with me. I'm going to say ogie, ogie, ogie. You're going to say oi, oi, oi. Okay, you guys ready? Ogie, ogie, ogie.
Oi, oi, oi.
That means the pasties were done. You all could come get your pasties. It's kind of an easy phrase. It would come from the Cornish area. Now, most of you don't say that, do you? You go to the shop and you say, I would like a beef or chicken, or So try it at a few of the shops in the area and see what happens. But again, it was a sing-song type of thing. A lot of the miners did sing-song things. I portray a camp cook at the lumberjack show as well. And so they always say the camp cook is probably the best person to know about anything. So make sure you know that. Same with the woman and I know I tried to represent her, that picture. Well, I didn't have a hairnet, so I had to do this. So we'll make sure we have that. The nice thing about the pasty, it is a food indicator. It's a regional food. It is protected that this came from the Cornish area. They have it in the UK. It's definitely theirs. They're not going to say anything else, and people will probably have fighting words over it. So the UP could not even remotely say anything about it because we don't have it as a regional indicator, except for, maybe if it works, okay. 1845, mines popped up in the UP. I was lucky enough to live in Gwinn, Michigan for 4.5 years and heard Ano and Toivel jokes all about pasties. So obviously, as the mines started popping up, so did all the pasty shops in the UP. And they stayed in the UP. Think about that for a while. Because there's something that wasn't built yet. Didn't make it down to our part of the area yet. Okay, so think about that. So that everybody brought their expertise. So the Finnish and the Italians and of course the Cornish people. Until things changed. The Italians and Finns, oh my. So if I was going to be a traditional pasty maker, I can only use onion, Swede or rutabaga, potatoes, and then beef. I can't really throw beef at you right now. But those are the things that would be traditional, right? Those 4 ingredients, that's a little bit of flavoring, we're all good. Well, the Italians and Finnish would add lovely carrots. This is what I have left from I had to save them before I cooked them all. So carrots were added in, and that was almost like sacrilegious. I don't know about yours, but traditional pasties have 4 ingredients and that's it, until you have a vegetarian show up. And that kind of throws everything off. So, and I had to figure out, okay, why do they call it Swede? Well, that's just obviously a rutabaga is called a Swede. So what do you guys put in your pasties if you make them?
Carrot.
Carrots, so you do. So you're more the Finnish, Italian, okay. I put cheese in mine, which would be Italian, right? I'm also a vegetarian, so I throw anything else that I have in the kitchen probably in it as well, yes.
There's a fight going on in St. Ignace about putting peas in. One of the races is putting peas in theirs now, and it's not acceptable.
True. Well, and as a home ec teacher, I always told people, don't be afraid to try a new recipe and try something different. But if you want tradition, you got to stick with just those 4 ingredients to make it work. That's important. But I would always add as a vegetarian, if I have extra asparagus, I would always throw it in my pasty. And someone had mentioned she never tried one yet, so it's just amazing. You probably have, but you just didn't know it yet. So let's go from there. Come on, there we go. Okay, so let's talk about the ingredients. At least only 12.5% meat, if it's traditional, right? And some of you are saying, where's the beef? I know it's Todd in the back's like, okay, go ahead and put 75% beef and then throw all the other stuff in it. Is that true? Okay, so and some people cube up all their items and other people grind it together. Now, when I lived in the Upper Peninsula, I was taught by a Finnish and Swedish family that actually they did not make it cubed, they ground them all together. So they put the onions and the Swede and the potatoes and they ground it with the beef. So it was more like a ground mincemeat type sandwich. Does that make a difference? I mean, that's kind of neat. It still tastes good. And they didn't use regular pepper, they only used white pepper. So it makes a difference for the flavoring. So that's more of the Finnish Swede side, not the Cornish. Okay, so don't cook the ingredients first. All raw. Make sure they're all raw. Throw them in there. You're all good. Put them in a big old pot. Mix them together really good. I always like to add a little rosemary, whatever. I would say in my line of cooking, because it's vegetarian, I always add a little bit more flavor because you don't get the flavor that the beef gives you. Correct? Okay. Now, crust, though, there's a little debate about crust. Now, do I need it? I'm just going to hold this for just a second. Little too much crust, do you think? Yeah, a little too much crust, but the inside is still amazing. This was my leftovers. I was always taught if your oven's going to be on, you bake everything you can because you're not going to have that oven on all the time. And so when you make pasties, you don't make one, you make maybe 30 because you want to make sure that they're done. So keep in mind. So crust in itself, you can use different types of crust. That was just to show, I threw all the extras that I had and that's what happened. But you could use a pie crust, believe it or not. I know it's sacrilegious, but if you don't have time, you can use that. You can use pizza dough as well. And then of course, any of those, believe it or not, type of biscuits you pop open and there they are. You could use those too. It's just a different crust. But a true crust is made with lard and make sure it's got nice layers and so forth. As a vegetarian, I don't use those parts. But I know you guys have the big, huge vat maker that you throw all your flour in lard and mix it all together and huge amounts of crust being made. All right, so styles. Traditional is the D in the upper right. And I was taught to make it like a pizza pie or a pie and you cut it up. And then of course, some people make it like a pot pie. So I've seen it all the ways, but the traditional is still the D. And I don't see anybody's initials on those, so we can't give those two up the upper side to anyone. All right, here's a debate. Gravy, yes or no? Raise your hand if you're gravy. Okay, right? How about ketchup?
I'll even do ketchup.
How about plain?
Depends.
What? Mustard.
Mustard? Okay. I do a little butter, but I'm a mushroom gravy kind of person if I'm doing it. But there's a difference. Again, if I'm doing a plate one versus a ham one, the miners did not have any gravy. It was dry and you ate it just like this. They did not have any gravy whatsoever. So think about that because they're down the mines, it'd be all messy and so forth. So they don't have it, but we have kind of Americanized it here, put it on a plate, had some gravy with it. And so some people like it. And mustard might be good at, I'd like to make it with pretzel bread. Now that sounds good, and then add the mustard.
Yeah.
See?
That'd be good.
I know, everybody's like, ooh, I did not make any like that. Okay, so baking options. So a stone oven, most of you don't have one of those, but that was the traditional way. Cast iron, now, anybody have a cast iron Dutch oven? You can make them right in that very easily. You can make them in an air fryer. I know, it's new and it's different, but it actually works. I've had several people make them in that. Anybody, and I'll say my experts over here, do you egg washers to make it crunchy?
No.
You do not, and there's a reason why you don't. Do you freeze yours?
We do.
I egg wash because I'm handling them, of course. Egg wash was to keep it stiffer for the miners. We don't normally egg wash them, but traditionally they were egg washed. If there were eggs around, we'll chase the chicken, grab the egg. And then of course, 350, bake it for about an hour, right? Now, microwave to reheat. I know it's sacrilegious for that point. You could also put it back in the oven to reheat, but once it's cooked all the way through after that hour and you have extras, I know some of you would never have extras, but if you have extras put away, they microwave fairly well and it does stay rather crispy. Okay, so where to buy your pasty? Bill, you knew this. There's over 80 places. Did you know that? And there's a lot of them. I know, it's amazing, right? And the only reason why there's some below the bridge is because after 1957, shops realized they could sell them south of the bridge now. So World War II was kind of the thing where the mines up in the UP stopped and they thought, oh my gosh, our making of 100 to 150 pasties per day in a shop were gone because the mines closed. It did not, because tourism boomed in 1957 and then they could keep making it. And we still have several. Someone said one in the UP closed. Was it Susie's?
Yes.
That was a really good one that someone liked. So keep that in mind. I've not been to the oldest one. Anyone been up to Hancock to this one at all? No. So those are the ones that you can go all over, because I know you've had people say that. But in our area, Audie's has it on different occasions, and it's a special when they have it. I know that our bakery, when they're open, they have it as well. They only have one kind. But we happen to have one that's open year-round that has 3 kinds, not one. And so, and Donna's here. Hi, Donna. That's kind of neat. And those, you get a vegetarian beef or chicken, with or without gravy.
I like the chicken.
Yeah, you like the chicken? I would love to make an Alfredo one.
It's more moist, because I don't do gravy, so,
Oh, okay.
if, for FYI.
Who's ever tried a chicken pasty? Okay, who's my beef pasty through and through? Anybody willing to try a vegetarian one? Just, we won't go there. Some people are like, Angie, we love you, but no, it's gotta have beef. That's okay. So other locations, yes ma'am?
Zodiac across the bridge has venison.
Oh, that would make sense. You know, the more locations that they would have. No, we don't have that available at yours, do we?
We don't.
No, we don't. Okay. Other places that do have them that I was not aware of, the Dixie Saloon has them occasionally on the menu. Someone told me that. I'm like, I didn't know, so I checked with Enzo, and guess what? He says, we do, which is great. The IGA has it. I was going through the freezer section, and there it is. You can pick up one there. Harbor Lights has a wonderful one. It's a breakfast pasty that they have. They don't have them the rest of the time, just breakfast ones. And then, of course, Pancake Chef has them on the menu when they're open as well. And this year, they tried a vegetarian one. They're still working on the recipe. They need to talk with me. So anyways, which is good. They're trying new, which is great. And then we also have the issue of trying to do gluten-free crust, which is another one. Okay, so let's talk about the competition that happened on Wednesday. We had 5 people enter in here with the library and the Historical Society together. That's when I gave my Cliff Note version of this program. And our judges were Donna Hunt, she's in the back right there, Melissa Kruger, and Joey Osman. And safely to say, they're all 3 alive today. And Audie's, Mackinaw Bakery, and Hunt's were all sponsors for that. So it was kind of a unique. Winners, best veggie, me, I think that was by default. Best meat was Terry, and then judge's choice was Cheryl Lynn. Now, Donna, being one of the judges, was it hard to decide because there were so many different flavors?
It was hard to decide. Each pasty had its own uniqueness. I mean, there was no set recipe, so each of them were a little bit different. The crusts were different, the fillings were different. So, yeah, it was an interesting, opportunity to come judge. That was a lot of fun. But yeah, I mean, they were all good.
She's being very diplomatic, I love
I
her.
am, I'm sorry.
Well, I can tell you one thing that she didn't expect. During my research, when I made mine, and this pasty as well, I was told that some wives who really wanted to make their husbands happy and being envied at when they're down in the mines, they would make their pasty 3/4 full of the meat mixture, the sweet, the onion, potato, but the last portion was apples sliced with cinnamon and honey. So, and I'll tell you what, that tasted really good. I was impressed. And so, kind of a neat thing.
Mhm.
I mean, make it your own. That's
Yeah.
why it was kind of nice. Okay, now we've talked all about Cornish pasties. We talked about what makes a pasty, but you've been eating pasties all these other times that didn't know it. So, a pasty by another name and its origin. So, the first one, anybody want to guess what this picture is of? People in the audience on Zoom, you guys can text it in. Yes! Yay! The first meal ready to eat for the Spanish and the Portuguese. So again, it's the same philosophy. They used whatever meat they had. They made it very nutritious and able for them to use. Okay, so who's ever had an empanada? See, now you've had it. She smiled. She goes, I've had one. Yay! Okay, so what's this one? You guys didn't know there was going to be tests. Ooh. Now, a pierogi I don't eat with my hand. And I can't normally take it with me.
Calzone.
Well, actually, it's just a turnover. I was kind of cheating with you. It's a portable meal, so nomadic people always cooked up whatever they had, especially when they were leaving camp. They didn't want to leave any of the food left behind, so they always would put it into things that could be traveled and easily eaten by all of them. Okay, so the next one, now you should know that one.
The calzone.
There we go. Woo! The English translation obviously is pant leg. I know it's kind of funny, but the calzone came through. It's to have food on the go, just like we have for the pasty. So kind of a neat thing to do that, and we all probably had a calzone. So out of necessity, the handheld marble was created, no matter when and where it was done. Thank you for traveling with me. You guys have any questions or comments before I get the food out? Now, I can tell you that someone said, do I just have these helmets hanging out, mining helmets? These actually were from Mama Mia's. She was trying to find me this container. She goes, I know I've seen, but I've got one somewhere in my museum. You know, come over and look. We found a couple of the mining hats, but it was kind of neat to be able to do that. And then I'll go in the back and get some out, unless you guys have any questions or comments. Go ahead, Pam.
I always heard they put it on their helmet behind their lantern to warm it.
They probably could. I didn't find any recollection of that per se, but if it was a lit helmet that was maybe kerosene or something like that, that would be warmer, and even a candle would do it too. When I found this out, that was kind of unique. I thought, oh gosh, you know, they just had rocks in there and they had trees. And I like how they used any newspaper or any paper that they had, and sometimes they would use just fabric. And then the husband or the miner could use it as a rag when they were done.
Can I add to your?
Yes, please do.
So if you look back further in history, you go from wrapping it in layers of linens to eventually the paper and the metal buckets. When it was wrapped in linens, they may have tucked it in an inside pocket.
Or underneath their arm
that
too. Yes.
That would have helped to keep it warm.
Mm-hmm. I read that part as well. And in some of the shirts, there were pockets sewn in for them. On the miners' shirts, the wives who were creative enough, like retired home ec teachers, would have probably sewn in a pocket like that. Bill, how did I do?
Very
Exactly.
So I'm gonna go cut out a few. I do have gravy. I have a beef cheese gravy and a mushroom gravy, and then I'll just cut up pieces. You guys can try them, and I will not. My feelings will not be hurt if you don't like vegetarian ones, but I made beef ones as well for my friends. So thank you so much for coming. And if there's no other questions, we'll go in the back. Sorry guys, you can't eat any of these, but go ahead and message me. I'll send you the recipe. Thanks. Yes,
Why did they ever put rutabaga in? Do you know? Or-
well, it's easy to grow and
Okay.
it keeps for a long time.
Okay.
And I also thought about this too, when there was different things that would grow or seasons or even roots that probably were used way back when. That's the traditional Cornish pasty, but I read that there were roots from different plants in the nomadic ones, wherever you could find them. The whole goal was to make it as nutritious as possible, easy to carry, and then, and I love the idea of throwing the crusts for the gnomes and the mines so that we can find more treasures. So. Thank you
Very
guys, I'm gonna
good.
go in the back and get the food out for you.
Need any help? Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, you're welcome. Oh, yeah, come on up. I haven't had gloves this summer.
How do you want to know that?
If I'd have known that, I would just take a look at it. No, we don't. Gold mine. I'll have to remember. They had, your boy and so his are all Hallmark.
Lynn makes her grandmother's one. She has these because her grandmother used to live in Pete. It's like 30 good size.
Guys, it would not.
I know, that's exactly what we said. Is there anything you can do? Right? She's doing somebody's floor. She's been tiling that.
Cookies up here too that are gingerbread cookies that would have been traditional.
She's a good singer.
Don't be shy.
Front porch is always beautiful. Whatever's just so good he is.
She joined our knitting group. Of course, she's going to tell me, oh, do you want to try?
I'm the only one you can eat.
No, they'll all come up, trust me. Grab a plate right there. Okay. This is the beef one, and these are vegetarian. Look by your camera there.
Hi,
Hello,
who are you?
Roy Cole.
Hi, Peter Sharp.
Oh, hi, Ben. Yeah, I see you on Facebook all the time.
Yeah, my husband just went to Jennifer's and had his haircut today.
Oh, did she? Did he? Yeah. Good.
And we live next to whoever, Terry Bell.
Okay, yes. Yep, you bought Ken Newsom's house. Yeah. Yep.
And you're doing better since your bout with,
I am, yeah. I'm just getting over another boat. Yeah, but this time it didn't blister or stuff like the first time, so. It's,